Good morning. I just wanted to welcome you all, and I hope you're all having a great day so far. Today we're going to make this sweet little journal. I tried to video this on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live the other day, and that did not work out very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to try it again and put it on YouTube, and maybe then you'll be able to see it. So today I have this watercolor paper that I cut into 4.5 by 6 wide pieces. And I have 2 signatures inside, which is what your inner pages are called. And then I have the cover. So let's talk about the supplies for this class. As you can see, I have Tombow markers, but you can have any water-based markers you want. Tombow markers are water-based, and why I like them is because they're versatile. You can use them for watercolor, you can use them straight, and they blend beautifully. So you have a brush end, and you have a fine tip end. Can you see that? Okay, there. I like to blend my colors, so I put the colors on my palette, and I'll give you a look at that in a little bit, and it's called a blending palette. I got mine from Tombow, but it was a gift because I had bought the whole pack of markers, so it came in the package. Sometimes when you buy a smaller version or a VIP package, you will get one of these really sweet. It's like a 3x5 piece of blending palette. It has a dual brush color chart on the back, and then you can add your colors on the front and you just scribble them on, okay? Which we're going to do that. This is a bone folder. You don't really need it, but I like to make my folds very, very crisp. So what I do is I use my bone folder. Once I've made my mark and I folded it, and I just come in and gently press, and see, it gives you a nice sharp fold. So that's an option for you. I also use a water brush, and the water brush has a well. You just take the cap off, fill your well, put it back together, give it a little squeeze, and you have a nice little puddle of water, and your brush is nice and clean. Now, the other thing that you can do with using this, if you were to have some color on your brush that you didn't really want, you can just squeeze a little bit of color out and of water out and wipe your brush, and there it is. It's nice and clean for you. So that's an option with having a water brush instead of carrying a whole bunch of cups of water with you or a bottle. I just find it very convenient. You're going to need a pencil, and if I could find my ruler, you would need a ruler to measure your 4.5 by 6 pieces of paper, watercolor paper. And I use a Canson pad, or I use a, where is it? I use the Canson watercolor pad, and I like the paper because it's nice and stiff, and it takes the color really, really well. And it's also less expensive than buying a whole sheet of, or a couple of whole sheets of watercolor paper, especially since they come in such a large size. And if you have no place to store it, you end up rolling it, and then you have problems with that later. But I do use sheet watercolor paper when I'm doing a picture for a gift or something like that, I will use that, and you can tape it down. It helps to tape it down because that way your paper doesn't curl. Now, we're not going to tape it down today because we need to be picking it up and moving it around. So we also are going to give the pages a little border. So as you can see, I used the markers straight. I had some leftover watercolor from another project, so I just added that in, some other paper, and I made another little border here on this signature. So it's very easy to work with, and because of that, we're not going to tape it down. So this would be your cover. And what I did on my cover is I did one side with 3 colors, and then I did the other side with just 1. And I added a lot of water, and I just let it flow out. I also went in and dropped a few little extra drops of water, and you can see where it moved. And it really makes a nice design. I really like that look. It's kind of free-flowing and easy. This side I really blended a whole lot more, but still you can see down here it's got a little bit of flow. And then you just have to let it dry. Now, if you have a blow dryer that you use on your hair, or one of the heat guns that you use for greeting cards or any kind of artwork, you can use it to speed up your drying process. And that's a handy tip to have, because I like to let mine dry naturally, but if I'm in a hurry, the first thing I do is pull out the blow dryer. I just cannot wait. I'm very impatient when it comes to that. Boils. So you're going to just need 1 large sheet of watercolor paper, which is this pad comes in 9 by 12. Can you see that? Yeah, okay. And it's cold press. The difference between cold press and hot press is cold press has a little tooth to it. It has a little fibrous texture. Hot press is smooth. It's very smooth. So I use cold press a lot, but mainly because I like the texture. It's up to you. Whatever you want to use is fine. I don't use crafting paper because it's not strong enough or thick enough to handle the water. So when I say use 140 pound, that's exactly what you need to use. 90 pound is too thin, 140 is good, and 300 takes forever to dry, by the way. So I just want to let you know that. And it doesn't fold really well unless it's really moist. So if you were going to fold it, you'd have to fold it when it was moist, because it's very rigid. And while I like that, it's still very difficult to work with. You can use scissors or a scrapbook paper trimmer if you need to cut your paper. I use just regular scissors. These are Fiskars. They are a standby for me. I really like Fiskar products, and no, I do not make any money off any of them, any of the companies that I'm talking about today. I know what I prefer, and I want to share that with you. The first thing we're going to do after we've cut our paper is we're going to add some colors to our palette. I've got some blues, some greens, some pinks, some purple, some green. I'm not too sure what color I'm going to go with yet, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. I can add more later on. How about some lavender? A little bit of lavender here. And you're just going to scribble it out on your palette. And you don't have to wet your paper first. This is wet to dry. Wet to dry means wet paint to dry paper. If it's wet on wet, you would wet the paper first, use wet paint on a wet brush, and then it would be wet to wet. Okay, so let's start out with some lavender. And come in with some blue. I'm going to just bring my little towel here. I'm going to overlap my colors just a tad because I really want them to blend a little bit. I think it makes a very, very pretty cover. Beautiful background. And of course, you know, if you blend blue and pink, you get lavender of some sort. So, with Tombow markers, you can buy them in a full set, which is a little pricey, but worth it in the long run. Or you can buy them in a pack of 6 markers. And they are color coordinated, so they're easy to use, and you don't have to think that you have to buy 6 packages of different colors so that you'll get 2 that work well together. That's not how Tombow does it. So just keep that in mind. Just don't. So now I have my front cover done. I think I'm going to go back and do my back cover. What I will do is I'll wipe off my palette because it's all smirchy. You don't get as good coverage if your palette is wet when you lay down the next scribble of color. So just try to remember that wiping it clean is a good idea. Add a little green this time, but not a whole lot because this is kind of a bright green. Put a little blue in there. And maybe some yellow. Squeeze out a little bit of water. Moisten my brush. And I'm going to add the blue first. The yellow first. I saw that it smushed into the blue, so I'm just going to overlay it and see you get a nice color green. Pick up some purple, lay it in there. I'm not fussy about how I do it because I like the cloudy look of it. It's kind of like a sky type of look, and I think it's really pretty. By the way, we're not looking for perfection here, so we're not even going to talk about perfection today. I am not a perfectionist when it comes to painting or just about anything in my life other than writing novels, and so I really try to make my art expressive, and what I like to do is I like to have it flow together so that it's really lovely. Now, I work in acrylics, I work in oils, not a lot in oils because the smell bothers me, but I really do love the look of oils. I like watercolor, I like markers, I really love markers. And that is a new thing for me, markers, in the last couple of years. I can't believe how many times I turn to my markers to work. Whether it's Copic markers, which are alcohol-based, or water-based, like Tombow is. Okay, so now I've made a mess, and I'm going to set this aside to dry. Okay, so this is one of my inside signatures. It's a double page, and what I will do is I'm going to put this away, and I'm going to start making my borders. Now we're also going to use the Tombow pen, a micron pen, I'm sorry. I use an 01. It's archival ink, and it is waterproof. What I will tell you is, it is waterproof, but if your paper is still wet, the ink spreads a little bit. if you have painted something and then it's completely dry and you come in and work with your pen, you won't have any problem. If you work with the pen, let it dry completely, doesn't take long, you can wash right over that and it won't hurt it. It's just that it doesn't like the wet surface when you first start drawing. It gets a little fuzzy around the edges. Not a lot, just a little bit. So that's something to be aware of. This is my half inch, maybe 1/4 inch strip. And what I did was I just came in and I laid my brush tip down, and I just pulled it along the edge. Now, you can see that that is crooked, right? So then you can come in and with your hand steady, just pull the color down, and now you have a better edge, okay? Don't twist your wrist. Do it with a straight line, okay? Just come in, put your brush down, pull it across, and you get a nice straight line. One of my students one time said to me, "I can't believe how you do that." And I said, "You just have to remember not to use your wrist. Just keep it stiff, keep it going." Now I'm going to fold this so that I don't go over the borders like I usually do. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. And if you wanted a thinner border, you would pull your pencil back a little bit, okay? If you wanted to be more precise, you could always take your ruler, draw a little border around the edge, especially if it's a thin border. So if you're going to do a thin border on your paper, you might want to do that with a ruler and a pencil and then come in with your color. And you can always erase the pencil as long as you don't go over it with the marker. So here I have a thinner border, but I'm going to make it a thicker border. Then I'll come in, pull my hand along. You see, I didn't twist my wrist. And it's a real good trick I learned a long time ago. I do it with my paintbrushes as well, and it makes a big difference. Now, you might think this is very messy. However, it is really not messy, because when we get the designs on there, it's really going to be fun. I'll come in with my pencil, if I can find my pencil. Here it is. And I'm just going to draw this is an H, and it is Derwent, but it doesn't matter. All H's are alike. I don't know if you can see that line very well. It's kind of light, but it's a thinner line, so you can come in, go all the way across. Oh, that's too thin. And then come again. Okay. And don't worry if it's not perfect, because it doesn't matter. If it's perfect, it just doesn't matter. I will come in with a nice turquoise, I think. And I will, you know what? I can come in with my brush and do it that way. So I'm going to scribble some down. If I wanted to, I could come in and do it this way with a small tip. Okay? So that's also an option for you. Oh, I'm running out of water. So you come in and you can just add the amount of color that you want. And it's going to go anywhere it wants to go. But again, don't worry about it. So you see that nice little line of blue? it's a little crooked. It's not a big deal. The whole point of my classes is for you to relax, be creative, and enjoy yourself. Learn to laugh at yourself, learn to let people laugh with you, and don't feel self-conscious. There are no mistakes. There are only opportunities in art. So we're not Leonardo da Vinci, and we're not Mary Cassatt, and we certainly aren't Michelangelo. So do not worry about perfection or having it come out like mine. Maybe you don't want it to come out like mine, and I can't blame you there. So now I have to find myself another. Oh, here it is right here. Okay. Because I ran out of water on my brush. So I'll squeeze a little bit in. And I can come in with a little bit darker and just drop it in there. Okay. And it makes a nice little design when you get to the inking part, so do not worry about that. I really think that we give it too much thought. A friend of mine said, color makes you think. And while she's right, because you don't want terrible colors if you're trying to blend and things like that, but just go ahead, lay the color down, and you'll see how we make it all work together at the end. Okay? So you can see how I have these little blotches of color. And when it's dry, we'll go back in and we'll work on it. Now my cover is dry, I can decide which one I want. And I turn in both directions to see if which one I like the best. And I'm really kind of partial to this side. So maybe I'll do this. Okay. I think it's pretty dry. It's not cold to the touch or cool to the touch. If your paper gets crooked, as you can see, this one is a little warped, okay? You can always come in and bend it gently so that it straightens out for you. And when my book is done, if it's still a little warped, what I do is I fold it up and I put it under a dictionary or a heavy book so that I can let it flatten out. You'll notice on this one, I did some little dots. It's called stippling. And then I drew my flowers with the small end of the pen. Okay. So I just wanted to let you know that ahead of time. That's what I'm going to do. I wanted to leave the center open. I felt that by doing that, I could either put a picture on there. I have some nifty Zentangle circles that I've done, and I could always cut one out and stick it in the center. I could leave it plain or I could color it. There's no end to the possibilities. So I'm going to start stippling. And what I'm doing is I'm gently tapping my pen down. Now, when you use a micron pen, you want to be very gentle. Hold it lightly. No white knuckle grip. It's not necessary. And treat this tip well, because this tip is a filament and it's very soft and it will ruin if you're brutal. So I'm going to do this in all four corners. And with Zentangle, you do each step one step at a time. And by that I mean I will do all the corners first, and I will come in, and then I will do all of my stems, then all of my petals, all of my circles for the centers, and that's how I work. Hi there, this is what we're going to do for the rest of the program. I'm going to show you how to make the corners. I already did these, and those are all done. But I just want to show you personally how to go about making them. What I did was I stippled my corner, and I will do another one. Lightly stipple it with your micron pen or your waterproof pen, whichever you are using. Make sure to be gentle with the tip so that you don't ruin it. Okay, now I'm going to tap that, and I'm going to come in with my colors, make some flowers. But first what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stems. Now your stems can be any length that you want, and you're just going to start them from within your little border here, okay? You have your stippling, and that's kind of like ground or whatever. Pull out your color, give it some leaves, simple little leaves. They don't have to be major leaves, little rounded, almost like little ovals. Here's a leaf. Okay, that's what it looks like. Then what you'll do is come in with your yellow, add your center, don't scrub too hard. Then come in with your leaves, your petals, I'm sorry. Now, I used the wide end for that, but if you wanted to use the fine end, I noticed that the color comes out a little darker. So you can see the difference between the fine tip and the soft tip. So if you want bold petals, go ahead and use the fine tip, because that way it's less work for you in the long run. So over here, I'm just going to put in a few, because my flowers are kind of crowded together. I should have made them a little further apart. And I'm going to have some pink ones, a little pink. And it's okay to overlap them, it won't hurt it. Okay, so there you have your flowers. Now once those are dry, if you want to give it a little accent, you can do that. What you'll do is you'll come in with your micron pen, create a swirl in the center, and if you so chose to make your petals accented, you could come in, do an outside line, and then you want to flick your pen so that you're giving it 3 little flicks, or 1, 2, however many you'd like. And you can see where I made them here. I don't know, this isn't, I'm not crazy about the way this camera's acting today. I've had so many issues with technology this last week. I thought I was going to scream. It was just so annoying. Okay, so now I've made 3 swirls, and I'm going to come in and connect my flowers to the center. I love to do these little journals because they work up very quickly. They're sweet little gifts for people. It's something you can tuck inside a greeting card or a gift when you give person a gift, or even just give them the journal as a gift. It's nice to carry in your handbag, in your backpack. Sometimes it's nice to just have that little thing with you when you're sitting in the doctor's office, or you have to wait for somebody to get out of sports or after school, and you get to do a little drawing. I know when I go to the dentist, which is not my favorite thing ever, it's right up there with the fear of snakes, I take my little journal in with me and I work on it there. Okay, so now it's all done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put your book together. Okay, so I've already got my holes started here. If you've measured down 1 inch from the top and made a little mark with your pencil, that's your holes for your, that's where you're going to make your holes. Now I'm using an awl, and I also have a paper piercer instead. It was one of the first things I bought when I started doing journals, and then it's harder on my hands because I have arthritis. But anyway, this is a nice little awl, and it fits right into the center of your hand, so you can really punch a good hole with it. I have my thread ready for my needle. Now I just need to find that. Here it is. I've also done a lot of Eileen Hull's journals with using dies. It's really, really wonderful. But I thought just teaching a class that wouldn't cost you a lot of money for dies or whatever, or for a die cutting machine. Okay, I have my thread all ready. And what I did was I measured around. I started here, and I just went around and around because I wanted to make sure that I had enough string to do a double threading. So I will come from the inside at the top, come out through the back, well, the front. And I'm going to hold that little tail, okay? It's important to hold that little tail so you still have some thread left and you don't tend to pull it. I don't put a knot. You don't need to put a knot, okay? Now, I'm coming back from the outside to the inside, and I'm going to pull that string all the way through. Now, I still have my tail. I'm going to come back up, go through that hole one more time, turn it over, hold the tail, put the thread through a second time through the bottom. Then I'm going to come up, I'm going to cut some of my string, and I'm going to fold it inside, tuck it under both strings, bring it around, pull it snug, and then I'm going to tie it in a knot. 2 knots, actually. I like to make sure that it's very secure and that it isn't going to come apart from having it in my purse and getting joggled all around. Now, you could leave, or you could have left, if you're doing this with me at this stage, the longer tails and threaded some baubles or little beads or something on there. But I did not. I didn't do that. Sometimes I will, but I don't always do that. Now, as you can see, I have some extra here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my pencil and I'm going to mark this right along that edge. I am. Okay. And I can come in and trim that. So what I do before I get decorating anything is I make sure that all of my papers fit within my cover. I want them to fit within my cover, just like this one does. Everything should fit together nicely without any hanging out like this one does. So if you tap it down, there you can see it's all even. So we have done a really nice little journal here. And I'm going to come in and tie it so that it stays closed. If you wanted to sew a button on like I did with my first one, feel free to do that. And I just tie this a little loosely so I can slip it on and off. You could also make what they call a belly band, and I can show you how to do that. I'm not sure if I have a long enough piece of... Yes, okay. You can take an extra piece of paper that you had left over. You can also watercolor it beforehand, okay? I'm going to put it here on the back. I'm going to fold it over. And again, I'm going to leave it loose a little bit because I want it to slide off easily, right? Then I will come in with some glue, or you could use double-sided tape. And I'm going to add some glue, if I can get that open. Best laid plans. There we go. Come on. I usually keep a pin in here so that it's open, because it gets a little... I haven't used it in a while. Oh, there we go. So we have a nice little, and don't put too much glue all the way down or it'll stick to your cover. So I'm going to pull that over and I'm going to put it right there. And again, you can see it'll slip on and off very nicely. Now here is the good thing. You could take a nice Zentangle or put a nice little verse on there. You could rubber stamp it. There is a number of things that you could do with this. So just go for it and don't worry about it. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself, because that's what this class is all about. I hope you have a really wonderful day. And I really want you to enjoy these beautiful little journals. Make as many as you want. Give them for gifts. Make them for your bazaar or your church sale. Put them on Etsy. Sell them if you'd like. I don't mind if you use my design or whatever. It's fine with me. The other thing I want to say is if you would give me a thumbs up on my YouTube channel. It's under ARTC Journal. And then leave me a comment and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much for staying here and listening to me go on and on. I've really had a good time. Bye-bye.